You need to hang up that computer call. Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantical.
Back in 2014, the world was introduced to a small indie horror game about the vengeful spirits of children possessing the uninhabited bodies of animatronic robots. That game was the Animatronic Jump Scare Simulator. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. Personally, I never thought this movie was gonna get made. I remember being excited about it in 2015 after hearing about it on the way to school one morning, but I stopped caring very quickly because of how much the movie kept getting pushed around. After a couple of years, I thought people would just stop caring and that Five Nights at Freddy's was just gonna get forgotten about. But I couldn't have been more wrong about that. Scott started releasing all kinds of merchandise like hoodies, t-shirts, backpacks, plushies, fucking FNAF World. He even created an entire series of books that isn't canon to the events of the games at all.
Hold on there, you stupid sack of shit. Scott has said before the story of the books is a direct mirror to the games, and if you had read them, you'd see the movie is clearly following the book's plot, specifically the first book. So to help this low-riddle dumbass, I'll give a couple quick examples of things that are the same in the first book and the movie. Number 1. The protags are both young girls that are drawn back to Freddy's due to a connection with the victims, the book's main character Charlie's missing childhood friend, and Abby with the ghost inside the animatronics. Number 2. The pizzeria has been shut down for a long time, but William Afton uses a fake name and takes on a job that allows him to stay connected to the restaurant, and he uses the restaurant to get new victims in a golden springlock suit. Number 3. When Afton is found out, he reveals the animatronics are under his control and tries to use them to kill the protagonist, but the springlocks in his suit are activated, killing him and freeing the animatronics. Now, obviously with only 3 examples, I skipped over a lot of details from both the first book and the movie, but these are major lore beats that come from the books, so them being nearly identical in both shows a pretty clear connection. It's also pretty likely that any sequels this movie gets won't be as similar to the books, but I don't know, Scott Cawthon seems pretty intent on there being one sort of plot to FNAF that all of its media follows, which is why the books mirror the games in the first place. Regardless of the inevitability of FNAF movie trilogy, that's my time. Happy to illuminate everyone on lore I don't know from books I haven't actually read. Back to the video from this stupid ass motherfucker.
The man did it all, and then retired. God damn, that's a lot. With its rapidly growing popularity, it's bizarre that the movie just came out. And if you haven't guessed it, that's what we're here to talk about today, folks. Was it worth waiting 8 years for this franchise to finally get a movie? Let's start out with an easier question. Was the movie good? I don't know. It's not a bad film by any means, but there are aspects that aren't great either. Objectively, the film had some pretty cool set design, sound effects, decent editing, and some of the shots were really interesting, but I think everyone can agree that the animatronics looked fantastic. They look like they were ripped straight from the game and put into real life. It makes perfect sense that Jim Henson's Creature Shop is responsible for these amazing animatronic puppets. I never understood why the designs of animatronics in the fake Five Nights at Freddy's movies look so weird. Those characters didn't look bad necessarily, but they always felt off to me because it was so obvious they were people in costumes. So it's cool that this movie really knocked it out of the park with these animatronics. Like I mentioned earlier, Five Nights at Freddy's also has some pretty decent camera work. I've seen this film twice already, and on both watches it was able to capture my attention with these eerie and uncomfortable shots. For example, I really like the way the dream sequences were shot. I love how the trees stand parallel to one another, polluting the background, and I like how the camera focuses on certain details every time we revisit the scene. I was also a big fan of the sound design. They used that scratchy-ass violin music. I love that shit. I will say the editing is a little wacky though, leaving us with transitions like this, or this. These awkward cuts tend to ruin action scenes because all of the buildup is completely lost the second the camera cuts to a different shot. Now, before I get into talking about the plot of the film, I want to make a few things clear. I haven't read any of the Five Nights at Freddy's books, and I haven't played any of the recent games. My only prior knowledge is the random shit that I happen to remember from when I was little. Now that that's out of the way, I don't think this movie's bad, but it is kind of a mess. When the film first starts, we're introduced to our main character, Mike Schmidt. He seems like a pretty chill guy, right? Yeah, that's all cool and dandy up until he brutally assaults a man in a public fountain. God damn! What the fuck just happened? We haven't even known the guy for 3 minutes and he's already attacking strangers. This could be some of the thoughts that might have gone through your head after watching this scene. Josh Hutcherson does a pretty decent job here, and although there's nothing to write home about his performance, it's not like it was bad at all. I like that he seems to be the only character in the entire movie who's confused and questioning any of what's happening. He has good questions, he has good intentions, and overall he's not a bad character. There's only one thing about him that I don't really like. which isn't really something about him, but kind of just something surrounding the story of his character. I'm not the biggest fan of the dream plotline. Although I love the way the scenes are shot, it's just kind of hard to get behind them. And now, I don't have any issues with characters going to sleep and then seeing paranormal entities in their dreams, especially when he's sleeping at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza where there are a bunch of dead children hanging out. It's just, his logic doesn't make any sense. His plan is to go to sleep every night and relive the exact same day when his brother got abducted, to hopefully one day piece together who took his brother. That's not how fucking dreams work. I don't know how he expects to ever figure out what this guy looked like when he never saw him in the first place. You can't just like play around in your mind and figure things out like that. Especially when dreaming, things are not consistent. And I could understand if he was having that nightmare over and over again because he couldn't let go of the guilt of losing his brother, but that's not why he's having the dream. He's choosing to have the fucking dream. It's just one of those things that I can't really get behind. If he was having the dream for any other reason, I'd be fine, but the fact that he goes back every night to investigate just seems so stupid to me. I also don't like that because he's trying to figure out who took his brother, it's revealed that his brother was also abducted by William Afton. But like, why? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's like, oh, okay, so Mike's brother was taken by William, but William didn't stuff this kid into a suit. He stuffed 5 different kids into suits, and Mike can talk to them through dreams, but he can't talk to his brother who was also killed by William through dreams because he wasn't put in a suit? Fuck, I would have been fine with his brother getting abducted if it was just a different guy, because that part of his story, it makes sense. It makes sense why he'd reacted the mall. It would honestly make more sense to why he'd want to help the kids at Freddy's. Help this guy get over his trauma by helping different kids find their killer and abductor. I just think this could have made it a little bit more interesting, especially because he sees and meets William in person and never confronts him about taking his brother. It's like he just forgets it completely. I do really like his relationship with Abby though, and I like that because they're brother and sister and so far apart in age that their relationship is very flexible. I actually really like that Abby gets along with the animatronics the way she does. It leads to some of my favorite scenes in the movie, which is just the animatronics acting like big goofballs and doing little kid shit because, you know, they're children. Like, I really can't believe people had such an issue with the scene where they built a fort. That was easily one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, just because it demonstrated that there are kids inside these animatronic robots. I could be wrong, but I honestly think that this movie did that part way better than the games did. It personified the animatronics a bit, and that's something we never really got, at least with the original ones. I do wish that we got to see more of them though. It kind of sucks that Bonnie and Freddy do almost nothing in the whole film. Foxy gets to kind of run and do creepy shit, and Chica stares a lot, but honestly, the cupcake was fucking more people up than any of the 4 of them. It is cool that they gave the animatronics a scene to just completely brutally murder people, but also with that, I really think they could have done more. I know this movie's PG-13 and I don't actually have a problem with that, but I feel like they totally could have done way more creative shit when it came to killing these people. On a side note, speaking of those people, their plotline is really funny because it's completely unnecessary. Let me explain. Mike's aunt hires a babysitter to go watch Abby so she can dig up dirt on him. It doesn't matter anyway though because the entire plotline cancels out completely. I like that Mike's aunt is set up as a side antagonist but genuinely does not matter to the plot and is forgotten about altogether. There are so many forces working against Mike to make him look bad and somehow they all fail. There's nothing that can make Mike look bad.
Recognize these?
Okay, there might be proof that he's a lousy security guard, but if there's nothing else, I think I win. What the hell, lady? He needed those. Now, this is where having knowledge of the books would have probably been helpful, but I'm glad to say that I had no idea who Vanessa was before this film. I really didn't mind Mike and Abby, but out of all of the characters, Vanessa got on my nerves the most. She has all of the answers and is absolutely no help to the rest of the characters. I like when Mike deliberately asks Vanessa if the animatronics are dangerous and she completely ignores him to build a fort with the FNAF fellas and Abby, but then later threatens to kill him for bringing his sister there. Mike asks her so many questions throughout this movie and she either answers around them or completely deflects altogether. Now you could be saying right now, Logan, shut the fuck up! She didn't help Mike because she was secretly Afton's daughter the whole time! Okay, but she's actively hinting at the pizzeria being dangerous and also just straight up tells Mike about the dead kids. I personally think it would have been way more interesting if Mike did some detective work and found out about the hidden lore of the restaurant. Like, wouldn't it be neat if it was revealed to Mike that the guy who he was learning all this terrible stuff about was actually the guy who hired him? Vanessa has all of the answers, but doesn't actually provide any solid information for Mike. She is utterly useless in this story. Maybe I would have appreciated her presence more if I read the books, but I didn't, and I won't. But I didn't, and I won't. I also know people would have totally preferred seeing the ghost children, like, force them into the back rooms, into the springlock suit, like in the game, but honestly, I didn't really care. When it came to lore accuracy for this film, I wasn't super upset about things that were changed because, as I said earlier, apparently it was based more on the books, and that's completely different lore than the games anyway, and I was a fan of the games, so as far as I was concerned, William was still Mike's dad. Overall, I don't think this film was nearly as bad as people were saying it was. I also think that a lot of people love this movie way more than they should, because it definitely has flaws, and those should be known, but it's fine. It's not a bad watch. As somebody who's seen it way more times than he should have, I haven't really gotten bored watching it. Actually, the more I've seen it, the more I've enjoyed it. And as a little word of advice, don't let people tell you how to watch movies or enjoy things. I'm just here telling you guys what I think. I shouldn't affect your opinion, and you guys shouldn't affect mine. We're all just enjoying shit in the way we want to. Overall, I think I'm gonna give Five Nights at Freddy's 2.5 out of 5 nights. Or 5 out of 10. It was nothing special, but it honestly wasn't that bad, and I would not mind watching it again. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I have a whole playlist full of different movie and TV show reviews and videos that I'd love for you guys to check out. It also seems like you guys really like the Five Nights at Freddy's content, so if you want it to keep coming, let me know. I will gladly play the game. So as always, like, subscribe, and save Norbert now. Goodbye, guys.